Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer episode, and a little bit different episode than what we've done in the past few episodes here on the channel. Primarily, this channel focuses on gameplay or streaming and different stuff like that, but every once in a while I try to throw out these kind of a little bit different kind of episodes to kind of keep it a little bit fresh within the focus of this game as a whole, because as a whole, I do enjoy this game a lot. But this is kind of an idea that I wanted to touch base on after something that I saw posted on one of the social media outlets for South Park Phone Destroyer, in which someone had mentioned that this alien ship that's above the Osmo 4000 in the original kind of sci-fi art that's in the background for the sci-fi theme when you kind of do the campaign, different things like that, or it could be a loading screen when you're loading in the game with the sci-fi theme specifically, that somebody thought, hey, the alien drone has shown up in the game before it even actually got there. And that was kind of an interesting thing to take away from it. So as you can see from this, it looks like a spaceship, not so much the alien drone itself, as the alien drone itself looks a little bit different. So here's what the alien drone actual card art looks like versus the actual ship. As you can see, there is an actual spaceship above the alien drone that kind of, it seemed to have beamed it down to life to actually do the thing that it did. So I wouldn't say, for instance, that this is actually the alien drone, for instance, in the actual game, but this was something that got me thinking, like, was there other things within their own card art or within the game as a whole that is kind of a little bit of secret gems that we kind of have lost focus of, and maybe something that Redlynx is trying to tell us could be things that could end up being in the game in the future, as well as some card art that we've seen data mined over the course of months and months since the game actually launched. It's now been out over a year now, to where some of the stuff that was data mined even in the early stages has never even come to fruition, and stuff that we may want to see in the future, as well as some card art that I've recently found that I've never even seen before until just a few hours before making this video. So maybe it's stuff you guys have seen, maybe not, but I hope that you guys enjoy this kind of episode, as it's going to be a little bit different. But there has been more than one occasion where the spaceship has come into fruition. It's shown up not only in this card art for the sci-fi theme, it's shown up here in this alien drone photo. It's also even shown up here in the freeze ray card. As you can see in the freeze ray card, you have the different ships that are up flying around in the air, causing everyone to be frozen. But there's also a little secret hidden gem in this own card art for the freeze ray, because if you zoom in really close there in the bottom right hand corner, not only is Butters frozen, but something specific is actually happening to Butters. So if you look here real close, as we kind of blow up the card art a little bit, Butters is actually getting peed on by a frozen dog, which is kind of similar to the episode Good Times with Weapons, where Butters is dressed as a dog and he gets peed on by multiple dogs while he's in kind of the dog prison that he gets in that episode before he escapes. But I think that was kind of funny, that you had that little bit of tidbit of kind of little secret nugget that's kind of there in that own card art with Butters being peed on by that dog. It's something that I really didn't notice until just not too long ago, and I've played this game since launch, and I've never really noticed that Butters is getting peed on there on the side in the freeze ray card art. Another kind of secret little gem in the back of card art from cards that have been in the game for a long time. You look at Mimsy's card, for instance, and you can see that Nathan is actually in the background of Mimsy's card being raped basically by a cow, which is similar to a similar episode, Crippled Summer, where Nathan gets attacked and raped by a shark in the said episode, which is actually one of my top 10 episodes of all time in South Park. And this one's just kind of similar to that within the own show, but different obviously because it's a cow doing it versus a shark. There are kind of other examples of weird kind of scenarios where cards that were brought out in the beginning also showcase cards that could likely come into the game at some point, or cards that eventually did come into the game. And one of the best examples is Rat Swarm. As you can see in Rat Swarm, in the top kind of right hand corner of the screen, you can see Mr. Hanky clearly in this card art from the original Rat Swarm art. This is the way the Rat Swarm art still looks to this day from even at launch. Hanky was of course a card that was added to the game at a later date at Christmas, so about a month and a half after the game went global, because the game went global early in November, but around that December holiday, so just about a month and a half, almost 2 months later, Mr. Hanky was actually brought into Phone Destroyer and is still a card that is in the game to this day, obviously, as of this point. But this was even a situation where not only did something kind of weird happen in the background, but almost a foreshadowing again of a card that would come later on with Mr. Hanky. There's even some other card art that showcases cards that maybe won't come in, but more just kind of hilarious kind of shenanigans that go on in the back of the card art. One such example for me is the Ink and Craig card art, which if you can see in the top right hand corner of the card art, you can see Cartman's mother actually looks like she's being burnt at the stake up in the top hand right hand corner. And I went ahead and kind of zoomed in for you guys to showcase that a little bit easier for you, whether you're watching this on your mobile device or something like that. It can be sometimes hard to see. I know that not all of you guys watch this on PC and stuff like that, but there you can see Cartman's mother clearly in the top right hand corner. Now, does this mean that Cartman's mother will eventually come into the game? I have no idea. I sure as heck hope so. I hope all the parents end up getting added to this game at some point at a later point within Phone Destroyer. I think that's one of the beauties, again, that I said multiple times about this game, is that there's just so many characters that have been developed by Matt and Trey over the years of 22 plus years of South Park being in existence. So there was just so many different characters that they can add to this game and just continue to grow it and make it hopefully better as it goes forward in its time goes on. I know that some people have left the game and could say that, well, Drew, there's no way to make this better until you really focus on game balancing, different things like that, which I completely agree with. But then also sometimes adding new characters also helps bring new, fresh energy to the game and things like that. But definitely there is still a lot of other work that needs to be done with this game, not just adding new stuff. They also need to work on stuff that's already existing or problems that are already co-occurring that need to be eliminated and taken care of sooner rather than later. And hopefully that's something that Redlynx is going to be done, and hopefully server side is a big thing that's going to do that. But that's not mostly what this episode's about. Although I do think that and hope that someday Cartman's mother does get added to this game, hopefully if the game lasts long enough for that to happen. Another active card currently within the game that could be a bit of foreshadowing here going forward is Gizmo Ike. As you can see around Gizmo Ike's card art, you have different comic books from select characters within the Heroes theme, or what we assume that hopefully will be a theme added to this game at some point, but heroes within from the Fractured But Whole games and other things like that. In the Coon episode, stuff like that, you see a Coon comic book, Mysterion, and the amazing Mintberry Crunch surrounded him around Gizmo Ike. So is that a bit of foreshadowing within the own game card art? Again, Gizmo Ike was someone that was installed from the beginning of the game, but is that something that's going to say that at some point heroes will be added to this game? I've made a video a long time ago about the heroes theme and just some of my thoughts about if the heroes theme ever came to fruition, what some of these cards would end up being. I very much hope that heroes will be added in the near future. It is something that Redlynx has stated that would take a great undertaking to achieve, to have this theme added to the game, and I probably agreed to some degree that that would be the case, because you would have to add a number of cards, not just one, but a number of cards if you were to implement a new theme altogether. And it may be another year or so away before something like that would be able to unfold, but hopefully at some point that is something that is able to happen, and I think that that would be something that would be really cool to be added to this game. But is this a bit of foreshadowing? Maybe, maybe not, but I think it's something definitely interesting to look into if you look when you see this card art, to say that, well, at least it's something that Redlynx is aware of, or at least that they know within the lore of South Park. It is something that could happen in the future of this game. Before we get completely away from Ike altogether, let's talk about a card that was something that was mentioned by Redlynx allegedly in a Twitch stream, that this card was going to be coming into the game relatively soon, and yet still hasn't come to fruition. And we're talking about Jew Scout Ike, which allegedly was supposed to be a 3 energy cost mystical common assassin that every time he charged, he would give you 1 energy in return every time he used his charged ability. Now this was supposed to be something. Now this card was rumored long before all the common nerfs happened and all the balance changes that dramatically changed the way epics and legendaries are now buffed within this game. This card was allegedly rumored or mentioned in a Twitch stream that he would be coming soon by Redlynx developers after the Terrence and Phillip and Ink and Craig cards were added into the game. I don't know exactly when, but allegedly it was the 19th overall Twitch stream that was done by the developers. I don't know if this is true or not, but this is just stuff that was, this was a data mined image that was data mined a long time ago, early on when the game was developed, that this was supposed to be the 4th Ike card to be added to this game. And since then, this card has never come around, and a bunch of different cards have been added to this game, and Jew Ike has just continued to not be added to this game. And this is a card that would round out the cards, and at the time was one that was called for mightily by the mystical community, because Mystical's assassins were terrible before the epic buffs that now made them demigods now within this own game. But before then, Choirboy Butters and Hermes Kenny were not very good, and so people thought that this was going to be the saving grace for Mystical and finally give them an assassin worth using with a common card, because commons were so good back then before they were nerfed into most of them into oblivion where they're not even playable anymore. And so a lot of people were very excited about Jew Scout Ike, but Jew Scout Ike has still not been implemented into this game since that point, and he may never be in here. I'm not saying he's I don't know if he's never going to be in here, but from the way it's looking, the game has kind of been shifting, at least for the time being, to focus on adding cards that are relevant to the current episodes of the show. However, the show is now on a break until the following season, until season 23 would start, so there is plenty of time to be adding some of these other cards in that have been lost for whatever reason within the game's archives or whatever you want to call it, so that this is a card that needs to come out probably in the near future, just because it would round out all the Ikes and give another card to the mystical theme. But there are a lot of changes that need to be made to this game before new cards need to continue to be added, like I've been mentioned multiple times in other episodes and a little bit in this one, but this is a card that definitely needs to come out at some point. Another card that was data mined very early on that hasn't come into fruition is Dragon Slayer Red. Now this is a card that a lot of people have speculated was going to be coming out multiple different times, a fantasy themed fighter card that allegedly would knock back enemies and have their health each time she used her ability. I don't know if this is a Warcry ability or a charged ability. I would assume maybe a charged ability, but then there would be another red card to be added to the game. Now remember, Alien Queen Red is already currently in the game as a sci-fi card, but as of right now, as I'm recording this video, there are no other red cards currently within the game. But this is one that constantly, multiple times as new cards have been added or that have been rumored or leaked, that people have been saying, okay, it's Dragon Slayer Red, she's finally being added to the game, and Fantasy needs newer cards. They've only had 2 cards added to the game since launch, which are Blood Elf Bebe and Witch Garrison. And a lot of people thought instead of Witch Garrison, this was going to be the card we were going to be getting, and we still haven't gotten her yet. I think Dragon Slayer Red would be a really interesting card, really cool card to be added to the game. As far as I know, her rarity has not been data mined or leaked as far as the information, but allegedly this is a card that, again, has been speculated multiple times. She's been data mined for a long time, and we've been aware of her, but have still yet to see her within the game. So this is a card I would definitely love to see sooner rather than later, would be Dragon Slayer Red. I think it would be a fun, interesting card to add to the fantasy theme. Another leaked fantasy card that hasn't come out yet that would be interesting is Scott Malkinson. Scott Malkinson, of course, in the Stick of Truth was viewed as a ranger within that game, and he kind of is donning a lot of that similar Stick of Truth kind of outfit that he's got in this card art that we have showcased. And Scott Malkinson is a fan favorite of myself, and I'm sure a lot of South Park fans, as just kind of one of those funny little oddball characters that have been added by Matt and Trey over the years, and was really just a hilarious addition added as a character within this show. And Scott Malkinson has also made showcase in both of the video games that have come out from Ubisoft as well. It would just be that much better just to have Scott Malkinson also added to Phone Destroyer at some point. I have absolutely no idea what his abilities would be. There's no data mined information as far as what we know about what could happen if Scott Malkinson was added to this game, but this is definitely a character that I would love to see, and I know a lot of other people would love to see added to this game in the near future. And again, fantasy needs more cards, and I think Scott Malkinson would be a wonderful addition to be added at some point. One last little hidden gem that we can see in some previous card art that we could showcase of a card that could end up coming in the near future, and that is the Four-Assed Monkey. And the Four-Assed Monkey can be shown in the Friar Jimmy original card art, or the card art that he currently has. And as you can see, if we blow up the card art, you can see the Four-Assed Monkey behind Friar Jimmy on his left-hand side, or right-hand side on the card image, and you can see the Four-Assed Monkey there in the background. Now, the Four-Assed Monkey is a showcase of someone that the Dr. Mephisto created in his lab, where he kept on adding asses to different style of animals within his own lab, and one of the more infamous ones in the similar episode was the Four-Assed Monkey. Now, this is something, again, that we now are seeing in this card art, but there's also a data mined image of the Four-Assed Monkey as well, which we can see that Four-Assed Monkey right here on screen. And this is the data mined image of the Four-Assed Monkey, which was allegedly supposed to be added to the neutral theme. I would assume be a fighter card. There's no data mined information as far as its mana cost, what its ability would be. As far as we know, or at least from what was data mined originally, there is supposedly no extra ability for the Four-Assed Monkey, but I would assume he'd be a fighter card. He'd be in the neutral theme. I couldn't even guess to you what the rarity or the cost would be. I would assume maybe 4, just to make it to where, 4 asses, 4 energy. Does that seem to make sense? It kind of does in my head. I don't know if it would on paper. I guess we'll see. But will this card ever be added to this game? I have absolutely no idea. I would hope so, and I think it would be an interesting and funny card to be added, but this is a little lesser known character within the lore of South Park, unless you really have watched this show from the beginning, that you may not even know that this even character exists even at all, as far as with the Four-Assed Monkey, because it's not been a character that has been anywhere relevant in any of the newer seasons over the course of probably the last at least 15 seasons. You probably won't have seen the Four-Assed Monkey much, if even at all, all. And Dr. Mephisto has pretty much kind of fallen off the face of the earth within the show as well after the first maybe 6, 7, 8 seasons, and then you just never saw him anymore after that. I could be wrong, but I don't recall ever seeing Dr. Mephisto, at least definitely not in the last 10 seasons or so of South Park. But I think that the Forest Monkey could be something that we could possibly see at some point. I don't think this is card art that I've showcased on my channel before or anything like that, so I think this is relatively new as far as, at least for you guys, from stuff that I've seen. But this is a data mined image. This is not an image I created, so I have absolutely no idea if this card will ever come or not. And lastly, we have one last little image that I found on the data mined site for this game, and that is Classy. Classy is someone that you can remember from The Fractured But Whole as an actual character within that actual show, and I believe she actually shows up within South Park the show as well, but I'm not 100% on that when she does. If she were to show up, it would only be during the Coon episodes. But Classy is someone that was data mined, and apparently this data mine leak came out around the same time that Witch Garrison was added into the game. And originally, before Witch Garrison was added, this was a data mined image that was uploaded around the same time by Redlynx, or found within Redlynx data archives or databases, whatever, to get this data mined leaked information. But this leaked image was of Classy instead of Witch Garrison, which was eventually the card that was added to the game. So does that mean Classy will ever come? Who knows? But if this was data mined leaked around the same time that Witch Garrison was, it could very well mean that this could eventually be a card that could be added to the game in the future, because this was something that at least Redlynx was possibly flirting with adding to the game at that same time. But instead they went with Witch Garrison because at the time it was Halloween, so it made more sense to add a card that had a Halloween type theme to it than a card that doesn't, because Classy really doesn't relate to any specific holiday or anything really specific at all. But she is an interesting card, interesting character within the show, or at least definitely within the Fractured But Whole. So I think it would be something that maybe we'll see Classy added to the game. And could that end up being a card that could be added in the hero style theme, because it does tie at least to the Fractured But Whole storyline a little bit? So is this something that we could see when that actual theme comes to fruition? Maybe, maybe not. But I thought this was an interesting little anecdote to be added to this, because this is card art that I've never seen before. I don't know if many people have seen this card art before, as this is something that was allegedly brought out in the data mining around the same time again that Witch Garrison came out, which was just a couple months ago before recording this video. So there we go, guys. There is some kind of little sneak gems that I found within some different card arts, or some little secrets and tidbits that I found within their own current card art, and possible cards that could be added into the near future, and just some cards that have been, or data mined information that may have just been kind of forgotten, that we would very much, at least I would very much like to see added to this game from Redlynx here in the near future. But is there any other special little tidbits that you guys have found within the own card arts, within the different wallpapers, whatever you have found, that could be something that I missed in this kind of little secrets breakdown kind of thing, or anything you'd like to add as far as other content you'd like to see? There are plenty of other characters within the show that I'd love to see added. I'd love to see Shelly added to finish off the Marsh family. There is plenty of other characters that I would love to see added. Some characters that I never think will be added to this game, probably ever. I don't believe Chef will ever come to fruition within this game. As much as I would love to see Chef, I don't think Chef will ever happen. I really don't. I think there's the way that Matt and Trey left with Chef, or the way that I know that Isaac Hayes is dead, so we'd have to find a new person to voice Chef, even if Chef was added to this game, because we can't, unless they just use little snippets of recordings of Isaac Hayes' voice to do the Chef voiceover for this game. But I don't think Chef will ever be added again, because South Park Studios would probably not allow that to happen. And then I don't think any of the characters that have been added within the show relate to real actual people will probably ever happen. I don't foresee Gay Fish, which is portraying Kanye West. I don't believe that will ever happen. I don't think Mega Streisand, which is, of course, relating to Barbra Streisand in some degree, which is something that started in the very beginning of the show, I don't think that will ever come to fruition. I think there's a lot of cool characters that relate to real life, or make fun of real life actual people, or whether they be actors, actresses, whatever the case is, or even musicians. I don't think those people will ever come to fruition. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. I guess only time will tell, as this game is very likely going to continue to add cards as often as possible as this game continues to go forward, as it's been showcased, especially in the last few months. This game has added, 4 or 5 different cards already within the last 3 or 4 months since this game has come, especially since the show was winding down. We almost saw a new card every week, and only to be added to Santa Claus just yesterday before recording and uploading this video. So there are a lot of stuff that are being added to this game but there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Hopefully Redlynx is addressing all of those things. But again, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Let me know anything special, little tidbits that you noticed that I may have missed for the specific episode. I know this episode kind of went all over the place. I do apologize for that, but I just kind of wanted to talk about a couple of different things I found interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, subscribe to the channel for more if you'd like to see more South Park Phone Destroyer content. Like the video if you enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, my name is Druzy.